a member of the Republican Party who identifies as America First, who Donald Trump endorsed as a member of America First, and whose loyalty is to a foreign country, who wants to have the American worker fund that foreign country, wants the American worker to pay for their military, give $4 billion automatically every year in a deal negotiated by Obama and Netanyahu when Obama was on his way out. And every time Israel wants to have a new war, we send them whatever they want, billions more. We feed them all these weapons paid for by the American taxpayer. We isolate ourselves from the rest of the world. We block every UN resolution that the entire world supports in order to tie ourselves to Israel. We lose our own standing, our own soft power, our own imagery in the world. We lose massive amounts of money. All sorts of people have said that the reason there's so much anti-American hatred in the Middle East, the reason why people want to attack our country, the reason why we can't get things done in the Middle East, a region where we have a lot of interest, is because of the hatred for the United States, driven primarily by our standing behind and doing everything for Israel.
Osama bin Laden said that in his manifesto. He spelled it out.
Can we just talk 1 second about the fact that bin Laden wrote a note to the American people explaining why Al-Qaeda was driven to attack the United States. And there were some religious references, obviously, because Al-Qaeda is a nominally religious organization. But overwhelmingly, he listed very specific grievances with American foreign policy, all having to do with the fact that we constantly interfere in that region. We place military bases on sacred Saudi soil. We imposed a sanctions regime on Iraq for years that killed 500,000 Iraqi children that Madeleine Albright said was worth it. We overthrow their leaders and impose the ones that we want that then serve the interests of the United States and Israel. And we fund and arm Israel to repress and kill Palestinians. And he said that it's not that you're some country that's just sitting there peacefully and that never bothers us. And we decided, hey, look over there. They let their women wear bikinis, so we better go and attack them, right? Like we were attacked for our freedom. So he writes this letter. I remember the letter at the time. He was interviewed by Al Jazeera and previously by the New Yorker. So we got to hear from Osama bin Laden. Although right after 9/11, the U.S. government told media outlets, do not broadcast any speeches or interviews with Osama bin Laden. And their reasoning was, we're concerned that he may have embedded within his speech some sort of secret code that will activate sleeper cells inside the United States. Like he was going to blink Morse code or like have secret phrases, and then people inside the United States would hear it. So they told ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, CNN, do not air any interviews with bin Laden, when of course it was because they didn't want Americans to hear from bin Laden why there was so much anti-American sentiment. It was because of our interference in the Middle East in general and our support for Israel in particular. They were selling this lie that it was because we're free and they hate our freedom. There are a lot of countries that are free. Like Brazil, women walk around in bikinis. They have elections. Al-Qaeda has never attacked Brazil or Japan or South Korea or Norway. And bin Laden was explaining why there's so many Muslims in that region who hate the United States, but the United States government didn't want anyone to hear it. 20 years later, while October 7th happened and we're supporting this ethnic cleansing, and I would call it now a genocide as well, in Gaza, that's what most genocidal experts, including Israelis and Jewish ones, call it. It's hard to say anything else, but whatever. In the middle of all that, a bunch of young people who were told the history of 9/11 that the U.S. government wanted everyone to believe, discovered the bin Laden letter because it was on the Guardian's website. Because the Guardian's a British newspaper. It was not no American news outlet, despite its historical importance. And they started passing it around on TikTok and saying, oh, wow, I never knew any of this. I never understood that one of the reasons why these people attacked us was because we are so monomaniacally devoted to Israel, and why that we're constantly interfering in that region, bombing them, sanctions, overthrowing their government, overthrowing their leaders. Of course people are going to get angry at us and want to attack back. And the minute that letter started to become well read by the American people who were, primarily younger, the U.S. government went ballistic and demanded that TikTok ban it. The Guardian, a news outlet, immediately took the letter off their website so nobody could read it any longer. All those links that people were posting on TikTok to go read that letter would no longer work. And then TikTok immediately, under pressure from the U.S. government, which was obviously already threatening to close TikTok and ban it from the United States anyway, started banning all the hashtags, bin Laden letter. You could not anymore read or find. I mean, this is like the stuff we're taught that the Soviets did, right? Like hiding letters, hiding documents, erasing history. And I continued to be shocked by that event, that everybody thought that was fine. To take a letter that is of great historical importance.
Yes.
From the person that is alleged to have been responsible for the single worst attack on American soil, maybe on par with Pearl Harbor, but in terms of like a single day casualty count, explaining from his perspective why he did it. Like, you want to hear from your enemy, right? Like, you want to understand like what they're claiming.
I want all relevant information, and I'll decide.
Yeah. You don't want people deciding for you what you can and can't read.
Yeah.
They were petrified that young Americans were going to hear the reasons proffered, and they made that letter disappear.
Why would The Guardian, which is supposedly like this left-wing British publication, like, why would they go along with that?
The Guardian is very, supportive of the Western establishment. The UK is aggressively supportive of Israel, always has been, funds it with arms, does a lot of reconnaissance flights over Gaza to feed the Israelis intelligence. And when that kind of pressure comes to bear, TikTok, a gigantic multi-billion dollar corporation, The Guardian, one of the oldest newspapers in the West, they fold in a second. Like, they're no match for that kind of pressure. A pressure that said, we want that letter censored so Americans don't know about it, have never read it, don't hear from it, so they only hear from us. But so, okay. So that was just I'm still amazed every time, I didn't mean to go into that because we're talking about something
why
else.
do you love Osama bin Laden so much?
I mean, of course and then I remember being shocked by it and saying, like, how can it possibly be the case that we're watching this? And it wasn't, there was no pretext to it. It was explicit. Like, we can't have people reading this. This is terrorist propaganda. And then exactly, if you stand up and say, no, I think people should be able to read that. And then they'll say, like, oh, you're pro Al-Qaeda. You want terrorist propaganda to spread. And I'm like, no, I just think adults should have all information that they want to have available to them. And I don't think the government should be prohibiting certain information from being accessible.